Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting, either through my website, emailrevealer.com, or you can just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show today, be sure and check out our Patreon. I put up 8 hours of new content every month on our Patreon at the Opperman Report Patreon. And our archives you can always find for free. Sign up for free at Spreaker.com. And if you go to Spreaker.com, you'll find 2 previous shows I've done with our guest today, Grant Stern. You can find Grant Stern at his website, grantstern.com. He tweets prolifically throughout the day. I follow his Twitter all day long, either at Occupy Democrats or Grant Stern on Twitter. Grant, are you there?
Hey, how's it going, Ed?
It's going good, man. It's going good. So you immediately... remind the audience, who is Grant Stern?
Well, I am a radio broadcaster and getting ready to launch an internet radio station pretty soon. I'm an investigative journalist, executive editor at Occupy Democrats, the news websites, and I'm the producer of the Dworkin Report, which is a wonderful podcast I highly suggest everybody check out. Dworkin, DWORKIN report.com. And, I just keep busy. I've got a few people following me on Twitter now. And, hey, there's a lot of political news, even though certain people just left the White House. So I'll be writing that going forward and going backwards as well. That's kind of why we're all here to chat, huh?
Okay, wait. Now, that's Scott Dworkin.
That's right. Scott's working.
That's how I probably stumbled. That's probably how I found Scott Dworkin, because I follow him too as well. I probably found him following you. Okay, excellent to hear. Now, by the way, we've had you on twice before. One time was talk about Rosneft and all that kind of stuff, and the Steele dossier, and the other time was to talk about that incident down there with the Proud Boys. And I can't seem to find that anywhere on my website now anymore. It seems to be taken down. You remember that incident, right?
Oh, I remember it quite well because I'll tell you, it was that was the foreshadowing of what we saw on January 6th in the Capitol. There was a political assault led by Republicans with the Proud Boys organization, and even Florida's Republican Senator Marco Rubio called it a repudiation mob.
And it was the same kind of thing, then banging on the doors trying to get in. And when Nancy Pelosi was inside that time too as well.
That is correct. Nancy Pelosi was there. She was the target. They were screaming comunista, which is Spanish for communist. And I'll tell you, people all wanted to downplay the major importance of the chairman of a very large, like the largest Republican party in Florida, which is a key swing state, being involved with the Proud Boys rally. And even he tried to pretend like it wasn't him. He lied to me. He said, well, Trump supporters planned that. I'm scared of them.
Fascinating. Just like they try to claim that the Antifa and Black Lives Matter were really staging the storming of the Capitol this week.
Entirely predictable.
Yeah.
I mean, Adolf Hitler wrote a playbook, and these guys have read it.
How do you feel? You feel safer?
A little bit. Certainly a lot more safe today than say, January 6th, but I'm definitely concerned. I mean, Amazon shut down the Parler app, which I wrote a pretty viral tweet about a couple weeks ago, and I just said, at this point, Parler should just rename their app Evidence. But they shut them down, and some of the posts that they were allowing up there that were unmoderated were, calling to murder journalists, calling us soft targets. So I would definitely be a fool to say that I feel completely safe. However, since everything got diffused, all of the planned marches, and I call them protests, liberally speaking here, potential protests of people with guns who might use them, maybe perhaps acts of terror, we don't know, but all of that kind of activity seems to have fizzled because of the public warnings of the FBI, but that doesn't mean that there's not crazy people out there looking to hurt people for exposing the truth. And I think it's safe to say the reason you gave me a call is because you saw my recent story exposing the truth about what's happening with former Trump campaign chairman Steve Bannon. And that's certainly a truth that a lot of people would rather not see exposed.
Exactly. That's exactly why I gave you a call, because we saw that Trump pardoned Steve Bannon the other night, and basically he pardoned him for the crime that you exposed.
That is correct.
Okay, well, just take us from the start. Hey, by the way, you should pat yourself on the back for that. You should be proud of that, man.
Hey. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. I was reading a columnist, it's like an opinion columnist in the Washington Post. I want to say a few weeks ago, a couple months ago. And he's an older guy. He's been there for, ever since I've read the Washington Post. And I think he was there for 30, 40 years, probably 40 years. And he wrote, the one thing I can say about my journalism is that no matter what I've written, nothing has changed because of that. and that stuck with me because I was like, man, I'm glad I can not say that. I got a tip from somebody conservative that the We Build the Wall organization was not operating above board. And I followed up on that tip and I wrote a story about it. That story went viral. It got a little over 300,000 reads. And the head of the We Build the Wall Inc. Group, his name is Brian Kolfage, reached out to me because of that story. And we started communicating by email. And let's just say, like, skipping to the end of the story here, that chain of email communications ultimately led to Steve Bannon's arrest as his co-conspirator in financial crimes to divert funds from the wall operation and to raise those funds under false pretenses and use the money for personal gain. In between all of that, Mr. Kolfage reached out to Snopes to try and debunk me. That didn't work. I may be the only journalist in America who has multiple corrections issued from Snopes, not to mention is covered in Snopes and never has a bad cover, I mean, sometimes I've had some bad cover and then they always revise it later, like the Russia investigation, for example. But, so Snopes reached out to the state authorities and the state authorities reached out to other state authorities, and that sparked the investigation. And we know that because I reported that. I got copies of the emails showing all the communications, and sure enough, it was my story that caused the investigation, and it's all right there in public records and sitting on Raw Story, where I wrote the second story about the We Build the Wall scam.
Okay, now that's fascinating. So you're saying that Kolfage, when he reached out to Snopes to get them to back him up, they wound up going to investigators, and that's what led to the investigation.
Right. Snopes called the Florida Attorney General's office. The AG in Florida doesn't regulate charities. Not many people know that. They know it now. And the AG reached out to the charity regulator, and that agency is the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, FDACS. And FDACS is a civil agency with a law enforcement division. They call it the Ag Law Division, actually. So they oversee charities. Every charity that raises funds from the general public has to file a registration statement, make certain disclosures to the state. There's a whole body of state law about fundraising that they need to follow. And my second report on We Build the Wall said that they weren't following that they had filed false statements with the state, that they had done an illegal raffle, which is basically like a gambling misdemeanor, and a few other problems, but most of them in the corporate governance of how they went about creating this $20 million political action committee, or action fund, as they call it. It's a social welfare organization. You're familiar with 501c3, right? The
yes.
Charitable designation. Well, they were C4, which is social welfare, which means the money they take in isn't taxed, but the donor is not getting a tax deduction for making the donation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Why don't we back up a little bit and explain to us who is Brian Kolfage and what was the Build the Wall Fund about?
Well, there's a lot of irony there. You see, the Build the Wall Fund came about because of Donald Trump's government shutdown at the end of 2018, which was spurred by Fox News saying that he was being weak by not getting money for his border wall. So he decided to be strong. And, I mean, there's a open debate if he was just doing it because, tactically speaking, it would be better to fight a government shutdown, no matter how losing or horrible it was to the American people, than him fighting impeachment on day one of Congress. Like a tactical maneuver to just ruin the calendar for the new Congress when they're coming in. But either way, Trump unexpectedly shut down the government at the end of that Congress and made it into a pressing and terrible problem for the next month or so. And while that was happening, Brian Kolfage had an idea, and we'll get to who he is in a bit, but this guy Kolfage had an idea. He said, why don't I make a GoFundMe fundraiser to raise private money to build Trump's wall? If Congress won't fund it, let's just get people to fund it directly. Okay? Now, it worked. They raised $20 million on GoFundMe in just a couple of weeks. But there were some problems. And the bigger problem was that you can't do that. Congress still has to appropriate money. If I donate $10 million to the government can't spend my $10 million the way I say. They have to spend it the way Congress says, regardless of me being the donor. So, anyhow, this fellow Kolfage has a very interesting track record. He's an Air Force veteran. He is a triple amputee. And after becoming a triple amputee and recovering from that, which is very rare, it's not a lot of living triple amputee war veterans. A lot of them expire on the battlefield and are living now at Arlington National Cemetery. But Mr. Kolfage survived. And he was actually President Obama's guest at a State of the Union address, I believe in 2012, like as an example of heroism in battle. I have heard from sources that the result of his injuries was a little bit less heroism and more hot dogging, but I haven't heard anything confirmed about that. And I haven't really reported extensively on who Brian Kolfage is in my reporting. It just doesn't matter if somebody is, a wounded Air Force veteran or has never served, or if they're American or not. If they're involved in a scam, I'm going to write about it. But Mr. Kolfage was the guy with the idea, and it blew up, but they couldn't do it. And so they were about to give the money back until Steve Bannon, the disgraced former White House senior advisor, former Trump campaign chairman, saw what was going on and decided that it would be the perfect vehicle for him to advance his America First agenda after having spent the year 2018 traveling the globe to over a dozen countries, organizing fascist and far-right parties around being a global fascist right-wing alliance. How ironic for somebody that calls everybody globalists as a big insult or slur. And when Bannon met this fellow Kolfage, that's really the genesis of the trouble that they're in today.
So that's fascinating. So they never knew each other before, and Bannon didn't get involved until there was already $25 million in the bank. That's
correct. And of course, that's a great time to get involved, right?
for Bannon, but how does that benefit Kolfage?
Well, Kolfage was going to have to give all the money back.
Gotcha.
Right? And he had raised the money by saying in the GoFundMe that all proceeds would go to the wall. And so when they made the arrangements to create this 501c4 social welfare organization called We Build the Wall, which they incorporated in Florida as a Florida nonprofit, hence the Florida authority's jurisdiction over it. When they created it, they didn't have any way of, accepting the money other way. I mean, this is probably Bannon's idea from the beginning. Bannon was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs. Say anything you want about his politics, his policy, his actions, but he's certainly very educated and worldly. However, that was one of the issues that I caught them making massive technical errors in their corporate formalities. What do you know about corporations? You ever have a corporation or have to navigate that?
Oh, yeah.
How corporations work?
No, my whole life, yeah, since 19 years old.
Well, then you know, and probably a lot of your listeners know. Corporations are created by those corporate formalities. If you don't follow those corporate formalities, then the corporation may not be functioning right, and that could create legal liabilities. And that's what happened there. They founded the We Built the Wall Corporation with only a single director, Brian Kolfage. Okay? Now, what I wrote in the Raw Story in June of 2019 is that, number one, Florida law requires no less than 3 directors for a nonprofit. It's just not ambiguous, okay? Like the law says, there shall never be fewer than 3 directors, something like that. And what that means is that without the 3 directors, you can't transact lawful business. You can't make the decisions that you need as a board to do things, right? But there's a bigger issue that We Build the Wall had, which is that they organized themselves with only 1 director, and their articles of incorporation say that the only way to add more directors is as provided in the bylaws. So
there were no bylaws.
Imagine, right? Because you didn't have the 3 directors,
Right.
you couldn't adopt the bylaws. And if you can't adopt the bylaws, you don't have any bylaws. So it created a catch-22. I spoke to a Florida lawyer about this. I spoke to 3 lawyers as sources for my stories, but one lawyer told me, look, Grant, if this happened to me in my situation, I would just dissolve that company and make a new one. Yeah, making a new one would make a lot of sense, right? Because then you fix that little catch-22. Otherwise, everybody agreed that one path would be going to court, filing a declaration, action for declaratory relief, and, asking a judge to declare that there's an amendment to the articles. And that amendment to the article says that, the president or the founding president can add 2 more board members. And that would have been it. But they didn't believe me. Funny story. My reporting even said that having 1 director is a very big check on corruption because it keeps one person from having control over the bank account.
Exactly, yeah.
And lo and behold, $1 million was diverted right off the top while they were telling everybody that every dollar was going to their wall project. $1 million. That's what Donald Trump pardoned this week. Stealing $1 million. Tax-free.
Let me ask you a question, Grant. I know there's these fundraising companies out there, and they fundraise for charities and even fundraise for political candidates, and they're allowed to keep 90% and just turn over, 10% to whatever activity they're fundraising for. Why couldn't they just set it up that way and keep all the money?
Oh, from the sources I have, they had some of those people involved as well.
Wow.
Right, but they didn't have a lot of those. They had some of those high-rate fundraisers. They did a lot of direct fundraising, and Bannon was very involved in the direct fundraising for it. Very, very involved. I mean, they did, all these broadcasts. They really worked hard. I'll give them credit for that. They managed to get $14 million of opt-in out of the $20 million in original donations, which is not an easy feat. They had to contact all those folks and get them to opt in. And then they raised another $11 million over the course of the next 14, 15 months. So
we're talking about a total of $35 million?
A total of $25 million raised.
$25 million, gotcha.
And let me just tell you, the way that the 501c4 social welfare org works, up to 50% of its activities can be electioneering. In other words, it's kind of a hybrid between a nonprofit and a PAC. It just can't be purely a political PAC. So Steve Bannon could have taken a $25 million dark money donation and not told anybody who it was until next fall and used that money to promote what he was doing to try and get Donald Trump elected. Now, I want you to think what Steve Bannon did less than a month or maybe less than 2 months, 6 weeks after he was arrested and indicted on these federal fraud and money laundering conspiracy charges. He was one of the sources of so-called Hunter Biden's laptop, which, I mean, let's be clear here. Hunter Biden probably didn't fly from Los Angeles to Delaware during a pandemic to drop his laptop off with a blind computer repair salesperson. I highly doubt that happened. But that's the lie that Steve Bannon was pitching during the election. Imagine if he had $20 or $25 million to spread that.
You know, it's funny you bring that up. Because I've been talking about that quite a bit lately, the whole Hunter Biden laptop story. Are you familiar with the whole chain of events with Hunter Biden going to live with Dr. Keith Abloh?
No, I can't say that I am.
It's a great story, man. I don't want to take up your time, though, but it's a great story. Basically, Hunter Biden went to live with Keith Abloh. Keith Abloh got a hold of Hunter Biden's laptop. He contacted Bo Dietl and Bradley Birkenfeld, that guy with the Swiss bank account guy, the whistleblower. And Keith Abloh wanted $2 million. But I got this from Birkenfeld's mouth on tape, on my show live. Okay. Abloh wanted $2 million for Biden's laptop, right? The negotiations fell apart. The next day, DEA raids Abloh's place and takes the laptop. And you're right, man. What's his name? Bannon was up to his neck and all that. So was John Kirikawa. So was Giuliani. So was Carrick. It's all out there. And Bannon, you're telling me that Bannon was out on bail on these other charges while all that was going on?
That is correct. He was
amazing
out on bail. Isn't it? I mean, I think it's a big reason why that whole fraud scheme didn't work. I mean, members of the mainstream media were like, hey, the SDNY, the number one federal prosecutory office in America, as far as, highest profile cases, went ahead and filed this against the guy. I mean, there must be something there. Federal prosecutors have only about a 98% conviction rate.
Yeah.
It's not like a municipal prosecutor saying that he spit on the sidewalk here. This is really serious stuff. And I'll tell you this. This is kind of one of the funny things about the whole case. And this is kind of like let's say, I've been thinking about it a lot more lately since reporting at the Byline Times that Bannon is under state investigation, which is something that I've been working on actually for the 5 months between him getting arrested and him getting pardoned. Getting the public records, getting the proof in writing that he is he is involved in that criminal investigation. And, they could still file charges here in Florida. I would think that the New York State prosecutors, which would be the Manhattan DA, may consider filing charges as well. Who knows? A lot of people said that it's a very short walk from SDNY to the Manhattan DA's office. Can only imagine. But
Grant, let me ask you this. Now, Trump bails out Bannon, right, and he gives him a pardon. Mm-hmm. What about Kolfage and the other co-conspirators? Are they walking free now, too?
That's a great question. I'm actually still reporting on this story and getting ready to publish another follow-up in the Byline Times sometime in the next few days. And I spoke with a former SDNY prosecutor, very well-known former SDNY prosecutor. And they said that there's some trial practice that could be involved. There's some things that they'll try to do at the trial related to Bannon's pardon, like his co-defendants. But overall, it doesn't affect them at all. They're still going to go to trial for all the same charges as Bannon. Bannon could still invoke his Fifth Amendment right to try and shield himself from self-incriminating testimony, for something that could give him a state problem. And I haven't even gotten to the point. I'm still talking with these lawyers, like literally, this is like, right before we spoke. But I'm speaking with these folks to ask them, does the pardon effectively make him a criminal to the point where it may be easier to prosecute him on the state charges because accepting the pardon it forms an admission of guilt on the original charges? I haven't even gotten to ask the lawyers that yet, and that's a big open question. But to answer your question succinctly, his co-conspirators are screwed. They are really screwed.
That's the legal term you're going to use?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's take a little commercial break. We're talking to Grant Stern, always a great guest. You can find him at grantstern.com. You can find him on Twitter as Grant Stern. He also tweets as Occupy Democrats. And if you go to grantstern.com, this is like one of the first articles. If you pull it right up, you go to articles, you'll hear the source. Wall GoFundMe sponsor just paid a nearly $1 million yacht. Updated. And then he has all these updates going back and forth with Mr. Colfage. So we'll be right back with more of Grant Stern after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here talking to one of my favorite guests, Grant Stern from grantstern.com. You could find him on Twitter as Grant Stern. He also tweets as Occupy Democrats. And wrote this incredible story about the Brian Kolfage GoFundMe. We the people will build the wall. They're going to build the wall themselves. Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. Grant, did any wall get built by these guys?
So they actually did build a wall facility in Sunland Park, New Mexico. They did it illegally and then apparently got some permits after the fact. Too funny. There were death threats against the town of Sunland Park, which, by the way, it's like a suburb of El Paso, Texas. It's very, it's next door to El Paso. And they built that. They put a little bit of money towards the second wall, which was built in the National Butterfly Refuge. I don't know if you heard about the war between We Build the Wall and Brian Kolfage and the National Butterfly Refuge.
I do. I remember hearing that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that was the thing, and I don't know what's going on with either of those projects at this point. I would imagine the Sunland Park one is in an okay shape, but the other one was right next to the Rio Grande, so it could probably still be a pretty problematic structure to maintain over the years. And that was built by Fisher Industries, the North Dakota-based contractor that got a multi-billion-dollar contract for building Trump's wall.
Oh, really? That's fascinating, too. Now, Grant, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
If they got $25 million to come in, they can't hire a couple of decent law firms to kind of, like, you know what I mean? Like, do things legit? Get the building permits?
They could have, but they just didn't want anybody to know. They wanted to do it all in the dark of the night, make sure nobody could step in and use facts and law to stop them. And that was their aim, and they hit the mark there. I mean, they pushed the thing through. They built something, but of course, it's just a vanity project, and there's a huge border. The Bush administration tried it. They tried it after 9/11, and they just found that private people own some of the land. There's nature preserves. There's the Rio Grande moves. I mean, it's just not like this, dashed line on a map. It's a place.
Yeah. And a lot of that land is privately owned. It's, preserves, it's just not that simple.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with the funds, I know part of your story you're reporting there was you uncovered that some of this funds was spent on a $1 million yacht.
$670,000 yacht, to be precise, we found out.
Okay.
Still, that's a lot nicer than anything I'm driving.
Yeah.
It's funny because they're like, it's not a yacht. I mean, look, can you take a fishing boat, just a regular fishing boat, out for a 50-hour expedition in the Gulf of Mexico?
I guess
not. What is it?
Yeah, I'm from the desert. I'm from the desert, man. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, I mean, they bought their $670,000 boat, and to recap what I wrote in the story is that this guy went to another conservative and said, "Hey, I'm broke. I just got deplatformed by Facebook because they kicked my right-wing news website. It was called Right Wing News." Facebook page off of Facebook. And miraculously, they didn't kick his personal page off. And I'm running out of cash, so can you help out? This is terrible. And of course, that person later, they turned in Kolfage, and they said, look, Kolfage came to me and said he was broke in October, and now here we are in May, and this guy's riding around in this $1 million yacht, or close to it, and he's living in what looks like $1 million home. The guy said, look, I know what it costs to have a nice place and a nice car like they have, and you're just not making that kind of money on coffee. Like he had a coffee company. He said that was his means of support. Kolfage did. And the reality is that money got redirected towards the fancy house, the fancy boat, the lovely Range Rover, Land Rover, whatever the wife was driving, and lots of other middlemen and kickbacks. And, I mean, if you read my story, I have a source that told me that We Build the Wall spent more on legal fees than any other thing besides building that wall and the one in Sunland Park. And the legal fees almost all went to Chris Kovach, the former Secretary of State of Kansas.
And that's the one that Trump had appointed to dig up election fraud.
Yes, that's right. He was the head of the election fraud task force that found no election fraud. Yep.
Now, when this money was diverted to a yacht and fancy cars and this luxurious home, was it kept in the corporation, the We Build the Wall Corporation, or was it actually transferred over into, converted into personal use by Mr. Kolfage?
Well, they converted it, and Steve Bannon used another nonprofit called Citizens of the American Republic, or CORE, to launder the money. So, We Build the Wall gives money to CORE, and then CORE pays.
Gotcha.
People involved, and this is pretty shady stuff. I mean, we're not just talking about like one check. I mean, I'm just telling you what's in the indictment, that they kind of like divvied up the cash and they pay somebody, and then, that person would give half the money to somebody else. And, they were paying vendors and doing kickbacks and all sorts of, very, very thinly contextualized financial activity to launder the money out of We Build the Wall and into these other hands without reporting it. And, I'm going to cite something like on the very deepest background, which is that, so far I haven't seen a tax return filed, but people familiar with the case all wondered one thing: why charge money laundering if they haven't filed the tax return yet? And for your listeners who may not realize this, money laundering it requires an underlying crime. Like you're hiding the proceeds of money from some other crime. So why charge money laundering without tax fraud? Because normally tax fraud is the underlying crime. And my theory is that maybe they were trying to get, somebody to be on the hook, like somebody else. Like they're trying to, like they had done all the things they had done, and then it looks like maybe they were trying to file a tax return that was going to cover it up, and they got caught in the attempt of filing a tax return that would have covered up their ill-gotten gains with the stolen $1 million. And maybe that's why they got charged with conspiracy to launder money, because the feds were obviously reading all of their texts and messages and all that. So, I mean, that's just my theory of the case. The wire fraud charges are very straightforward. They said that they were going to take no money from it. They did. They knew that it was a material fact. It was. And they took the money and they lied. That's fraud to solicit charitable donations, and they got a massive amount of them. Pretty simple.
Let me ask you this, because there was a whole slew of pardons this weekend. And when I was looking through some of them, I was trying to Google each one to see what they were up to. Many of them were also shady financial crimes like this one. So a lot of them were meth dealers, too, meth distribution, manufacture, a lot of them. But I would notice occasionally the White House would issue an associated statement with an excuse and a reason. Did they issue one of those for this Bannon pardon?
It was pretty short. I mean, they just said that Steve was loyal to Trump, and so they're pardoning him, which we all know to be true, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of statement were they going to issue?
Yeah.
Trump is leaning on this guy for his political future because he doesn't seem to have one, so why not pardon him at this point? Like, that's essentially what the whole decision boiled down to. The New York Times reported that Trump's lawyers advised him against pardoning Bannon and said that it could implicate him in other actions, and it could.
That really is a shame.
A problem for Donald Trump.
Because it's not like Bannon's repentant, or rehabilitated, or anything, not even a bit,
I don't even understand why a person who would publicly call for the murder of high-ranking public officials covered under statutes that, make that a crime, and do so in a public forum. I don't understand why such a person would be granted bail, even, let alone delivered a pardon.
He wanted to cut somebody's head off.
Supposed to be there to correct injustice.
Right. He wanted to cut somebody's head off. Who was it? Fauci? Who do you want to cut that off of?
Yeah, he threatened Fauci and the FBI director.
Amazing.
Christopher Wray. Yeah, I honestly don't understand why he was allowed to be out after saying that. I mean, you know, we have First Amendment right, but once you're a part of a court proceeding, you know, there's a little more oversight of the things that you do and say. I don't recall even having hearings.
Yeah, I had a guest on this show, became friends with him for years, Reverend Ed Pinkney, who was had his bail revoked for quoting the Bible, okay, and as it applied to his judge. And he was a reverend. Now, let me ask you a question here, though. What do you think motivated the whistleblower to come to you and rat out Kolfage?
Well, you know, I think the whistleblower, and this is what they told me, the whistleblower said, look, you know, I don't want to see Trump supporters scammed because I think that if Trump supporters are being taken advantage of, then it may lead to the wall not being built. They literally said, like, look, you know, I know right from wrong. You and I may disagree about the ends, but the means we can agree on. It should be done the right way. And he was just, you know, I mean, you know, look, I've spoken with a lot of people on this story. It's been going on now for 2 years. But they were very disgusted because they had this, you know, they had this experience with this person, this personal experience. And if they hadn't had that personal experience, I couldn't have reported that story. You know, like they had a very specific predicate that they had met the person, that, you know, Kolfage, they had met them. They had heard from Kolfage himself that, you know, this was definitely a situation where losing his platform, Kolfage's platform, just crippled him financially, and all of a sudden he's cruising around. I mean, it's just a classic case of being caught by social media. You know, Brian Kolfage was caught by social media just as much as the Capitol insurrectionists. It's just a sad day in America when stealing $1 million and, you know, not being repentant about it at all can be a pardonable offense, a crime that's pardoned. That's the truth.
Let me ask you this, Grant, because you said off the air that you had a hard break at 6 o'clock. It's almost 6 o'clock right now.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to call.
Oh, good. You can give me like another 4 minutes of it? All right, then let me ask you this real quick while we're waiting for them to call.
Sure.
The other pardons. Have you had a chance to look through the other pardons?
Yes, I have had a chance to look through the other pardons, and they're egregious. They're really, really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with Steve Bannon, it's an ongoing matter, and we know that the state authorities in at least two states, New York and Florida, are able to seek justice for the American people and stop these scams and punish the people that perpetrated them. But former Congressman Renzi, Duke Cunningham, you know, we're talking about, and let's just talk about some of the pardons that were earlier. Duncan Hunter, former Representative Chris Collins. I mean, those guys got pardoned for, respectively, let's see, insider trading on the White House lawn. That was Collins. He was the first Republican in Congress to support Trump. And the second pardon, Duncan Hunter, he diverted at least $250,000 worth of campaign funds to have 4 or 5 different affairs while he was traveling across the country. I mean, these are horrible pardons. These are like it's just like a free pass. It's a free pass for public corruption. Any corrupt public official in America that isn't a Republican already is probably thinking about joining the Republican Party after this.
It seemed to me that a lot of them were very wealthy people, and perhaps
they were.
So do you think perhaps
Bob Zangrillo got pardoned. He's a real estate developer and actually quite active here in Miami. And Zangrillo paid a ton of money in the Varsity Blues scandal. Aunt Becky didn't get a pardon, but this guy Zangrillo must be more connected than Aunt Becky. Another pardon that really disturbed me was Paul Erickson. He was the Russian spy's boyfriend.
Right.
The Russian spy who infiltrated the National Rifle Association, which, by the way, filed bankruptcy recently. So Paul Erickson won a full and complete pardon for his vast, multi-decade financial crime spree. He was scamming people for years, friends, associates, and Kellyanne Conway sponsored his pardon. This is a man who left a note to himself debating if he should take a job from Russia's Federal Service Bureau, i.e. the intelligence agency.
Well, there was another one, too, that was working with Iran. He was working around the Iran embargo laws. Did you see that one?
Oh, there was? I missed that one.
Yeah, because they were also egregious. Now, what do you make of all these meth manufacturing ones, though? What do you make of that?
I don't know. Maybe Trump is in that business.
I don't know about that, but a lot of those meth guys are like neo-Nazi types, and right-wing gangs, Maybe.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows, really? Who knows?
I know.
There's no depth, there's no bottom to the depravity, so we really can't say. We can't say, well, geez, we know Trump would never be in the meth business.
Well, no, we can't.
We could say this. The list included a lot of powerful, wealthy individuals. Elliot Broidy.
Right.
So here's a convicted briberer who gets convicted of soliciting a bribe to get somebody else a pardon, and he gets a pardon. And this guy was just conducting all sorts of foreign lobbying activities without registering. And I mean, gosh, it's just overwhelming how many criminals these folks brought into Washington, D.C. And Donald Trump's last official act, besides pardoning, he also gave Judge Jeanine Pirro's husband a full pardon. That was one of his last official acts. But Trump did only one thing in 4 years in office. One thing in 4 years in office that could be construed as public ethics matter, which is that he issued an executive order forbidding everybody in the Trump administration from lobbying an agency that they had worked for 5 years, and forbidding them from becoming foreign lobbyists, registered foreign agents. He rescinded that on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning.
Yeah, you had to fill the swamp on the way out. Grant, we only got about 2 minutes left. I got another big question for you, though. What do you make of the number of pardons that were associated with requests from Alan Dershowitz? Anything?
Well, Trump, I guess, really appreciated the fact that Dershowitz got up there and said that up was down and left was right for him.
Yeah.
Dershowitz was an advisor throughout the presidency. He didn't try to hide it. He did explain that he wasn't Trump's lawyer. He's not giving legal advice to Trump at the time, but he took the job during impeachment the last time around. And I don't know if you've read the reports, but I read on CNN that Trump is having trouble finding legal counsel right now.
Yeah.
Which I find surprising because Dershowitz said publicly that he would like to represent Trump in the Senate trial.
Well, let's see what happens. We got about 1 minute left. How can people find Grant Stern and follow your excellent reporting?
Well, I would love it if you guys run on down to Twitter and follow me at Grant Stern. And at Grant Stern is the best way to find me, or you can go to grantstern.com. That's where you'll find my books on Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and 4 other wonderful Democrats who ran for president. And really, the best place to go is Twitter, at Grant Stern. That's where I post everything as it comes out.
Yeah, and the little bio is up there. He has tags and links to all the other Twitter channels he uses, and to his website, grantstern.com. Mr. Stern, thank you once again.
Thanks for having me. It's always been my pleasure.
Great.
Well.
Good night. Thank you. And now a word from our sponsors. OppermanReport.com. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Do you like the work that you see us doing here at Opperman Report? You can support that work by becoming a member at OppermanReport.com. And as you have access to over 200 exclusive shows and interviews that you can't find on YouTube or Spreaker or iHeart or iTunes or KYAH. You can't find them anywhere else online, exclusive to our member sections, to our members. Also, too, there's images, videos, documents, court docs. And don't forget, you can hear your ad played here on the Opperman Report, reach hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on a daily basis because the show is repeated every day all over the world. Contact me at oppermanreport@gmail.com and I'll give you a good deal on advertising rates.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe the facility you manage could establish new revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Cart King International can be the answer to your needs. Cart King is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile coffee, food, and retail carts and kiosks. Cart King has been working with clients and corporations across North America for 20 years, providing innovative designs, custom manufacturing, and timely delivery. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on our website. Please visit us today at www.cart-king.com or just call us at 1-877-986-7771 and get your sales rolling.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. PureSoapFlakes.com. 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.